welcome. Welcome to the 7th. Is that right? Jesus, I'm making this up. It is the 7th. 7th tasting of Beauj Box 2026. We are tasting this guy. I don't know if you can really see that. My camera is not picking up the focus here, but it's 2024 Domaine Hoppenot. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation in French, but Domaine Hoppenot or Hoppenot Le Grand Fleurie is what we're tasting today. By the way, that label, those little orange plots. So Le Grand, this is from four different parcels, four different actually parcels in the Ludi, and then those are the parcels. So that's what they have been painted. If you actually look at the soil map, but yeah. Anyways, this is what we're tasting. This is and you may hear my excitement about this bottle as we taste through and going through this, but this was one of the showstoppers in this year's box. I mean, I liked all the wines that are in this year's box, and obviously I wouldn't put them in there if I didn't like them. But it's kind of like all parents say they love their children equally, but like I get that. Of course you love your children all equally, but there's always a favorite. You know what I mean? And I think we should normalize saying that which child is your favorite, or do you have a favorite child? I think that should be a normal thing for us to say. But that's a whole different topic that we can go down on. But anyways, if I were to pick my favorite child out of this year's box, it would be a real close toss-up between this one, the Fleurie, and then the Morgon, the Migodar Morgon that we have this year. Again, I like them all, but out of all the box that's in the box this year, if you say you could only drink one bottle again, and then I would have to pick probably between this or Morgon. So I'm pretty excited about this bottle, and we're going to get into it. So anyways, let's get into it. Let's see what we got. And of course, for all you parents, please don't at me. I understand. I'm a dude, unmarried dude with no children. I have no concept of what it's like to have children. So maybe it's an ignorant shit for me to say that we should be able to pick a favorite child. But I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty natural thing. I surely have a favorite nephew or niece nibbling, but of course I'm not going to say that now. I'm not going to tell you who that is, but just know that I do. Anyways, all right. So where are we? We are in France, obviously. We're in Beaujolais. You all know where we are by now. But we are in a cru called Fleurie. So if you look at the attachment number 2 called Beaujolais Cru Map or Beaujolais. So we're moving down. So last week we were in Moulin-à-Vent, and then now we are getting into Fleurie, which is at, I don't know, what is that, army green? Is that the name, what we call that color? I have no idea what to call that color. But that kind of greenish kind of a cru is where we are. The attachment number 3, Fleurie soil map, will show where we are. There's a red arrow drawn on there that shows you where we are in terms of Fleurie, within a Fleurie. And as you can see, there's a redness just running all the way through everywhere, right? It's pretty much the entire cru is kind of painted with that red, and that red is a granite, pink granite to be honest. So what we're really talking about is a pink granite, and that's kind of what we're dealing with, and then we'll talk about that, how that expresses itself. There's so much minerality, so much granite influence in this wine, which part of what I love about this wine. But anyways, so Fleurie is not only just this bottle, but Fleurie just in general is one of my favorite crus. Last week we were in Moulin-à-Vent, and I told you the nickname is the King of Beaujolais, right? Most tannic, kind of burly, structured, right? And then this week we're in Fleurie, which is nicknamed Queen of Beaujolais, because it's kind of the opposite expression, which is more ethereal, elegant, perfumed. It's really pretty, you know. Even the name Fleurie, you know, kind of reminds of that. But not sure if that actually has anything to do with the character of the wines that come here. But the wines from here just tend to be, again, in general, depending on where you are in Fleurie, it could be very different. But in general, Fleurie is considered, it just has a lot more kind of that floral, ethereal. It's very pretty and light, as opposed to Moulin-à-Vent, which is just really just kind of like structured and tannic and burly. Like I mentioned, what makes Fleurie or this crew really interesting is that 90% of soil here are that pink granite that we talked about. That pink granite is the most common granite that runs through entire Beaujolais. All that red that you see on that soil map, that's pink granite. Depending on the elevation of the vineyard, the soil type here does change quite a bit, and this is kind of what I was telling you about. In general, this is what you see, really kind of ethereal, pretty, you know, lifted kind of expression. But depending on where you are, so there's a little bit of an elevation change that happens within the crew. But higher you go in that elevation, you get a lot more sandy soil. So that's where you get much more that floral, elegant, that kind of perfumed Fleurie that I was telling you about. And then as you go lower in the elevation, you get a lot more clay. So you get a lot more kind of an intense structure, kind of muscular, broader, more tannic, and then even the fruit character just tends to be a lot more dense. So again, not to say one is better than the other, it's just a very different kind of expression, is what it is. You know, for those of you, which are many of you who've been around on Beauj box for years, if you remember Claudel Roulette, which was it's the a yellow label with a horse in the middle of it. That's a Fleurie producer that we featured 2 years ago, and it was really like burly and tannic, right? But again, Fleurie producer, but completely different style. But yeah, this year, this particular one is also a story of a struggle. You know, they always say good makers can make good wines even in bad vintages, and this is definitely kind of like the case of that. Oh, by the way, I just realized this on the bottom. I can't see it. My camera's not picking it up, but in the bottom left corner or right corner of the label, there's like the coordinate, like the cardinal directions that are there. So I think that corresponds to the soil map here. If you ever want to track down which plots this for this wine came from. But anyways, Le Garant, which is where this wine comes from, the Ludi within Fleurie that this comes from. So again, really defined by that poor granite soil, but there are visible kind of quartz running through outcrops, and then it overlooks the actually village of Fleurie in a southwest facing aspect, densely planted of vines up to 60 years old. So. Yeah, that's kind of where we are. Let's talk about who makes this wine. If there's a picture of Gregoire Hoppenot or Hoppenot that I have, I think it's Hoppenot, that I have included there, Hoppenot. I should have asked Google Translate before I got on this call or got on this recording, but too late now. I'm just fucking up his name left and right. But anyways, so this is made by Gregoire Hoppenot. Gregoire is one of the most exciting kind of rising talent. He's not old, as you can see in the picture. Handsome gentleman. He was named in 2021 Discovery of the Year 2021 by France's most prestigious wine publication called the Revue des Vins de France. It's a massive recognition for a domain or a winemaker that's just only a few years old. So we're talking about a very kind of a young winemaker in terms of having started his own project, but he's been kind of around been around the scene, let's put it that way. He was born and raised in Beaujolais, so he's a native from here. He spent 2 years as a director of a Maison Trinel. We've never featured their wine, but it is a winery or estate domain that is owned by Michel Chapetier, which is a very, very world-renowned, very recognizable name in Rhone. But he also makes wine here in Beaujolais, and if you look at that French map, you know how close Rhone is to Beaujolais, so it's not a far stretch that Chapetier would also make wine here in Beaujolais. But yeah, so he kind of scouted the whole area, entire region, and developed this kind of rare, intimate knowledge of certain terroirs and what is the best, and then what works, and then what he likes. But really, what he fell in love with was this Fleurie. Then he spent some time learning alongside another very well-known Fleurie producer named Pierre-Marie Chermet. We've actually featured their Fleurie, I don't know when that was, maybe 3 years ago. But yeah, maybe it was in his Fleurie. I can't remember, but I do remember we featured him at one point. But anyways, yeah, so he worked alongside him to kind of learn from him, and then finally he launched his own domain in 2018. So we're talking about a domain that is less than 10 years old, 8 years old at this point, which is, I mean, you know, especially in a country like France where people have been making wine, especially in this region where people have been making wine for generations, you know, 8 years is nothing. So really, really new. But yeah, so he started in 2018. So he now farms 9.5 hectares across several different ludi in Fleurie. So he only makes Fleurie, and he does make tiny bit of Morgon from Courcelette, which is one of the most well-recognized and sought after ludi. But really all of his bottling is in Fleurie. So he's also another producer where if you want to kind of explore Fleurie, you can taste his different bottlings, cuvées, and really get a sense of how different these different ludis are. So he made Le Garant, this one, which was my favorite. I've tasted his other bottlings as well. They're all very different. It's not necessarily they're worse or they're bad, but it's just different. But to me, this had the X factor. You know, I've made a joke about this, but I wasn't really joking. Like both my rep and I, we kind of talked about it. But it's like because we were tasting through a lot of different Beaujolais producers and even different cuvées from Hoppenot. But then this was the last bottling that we tasted, and then we tasted this, and then we're like, both of our eyes lit up, and we're like, whoa, you know, it's like that when like that somebody's so beautiful, you know, somebody who's clearly won the genetic lottery, like walks into the room, and then you just say to yourself, like, damn, I didn't know, like, you know, they made you like that, you know, they made people like that anymore. But it's kind of one of those. It just kind of sucks up all the energy in the room. It was like immediately your attention goes there. It was kind of one of those bottlings. So, yeah. Anyway, so he makes Le Garant, which is what this one is, Le Maurier, Le Roche, Poncier, Roulette, Claudel Amandier. So he makes quite a bit of different crews. So fun producer to kind of work your way through Fleurie with. So. He describes his winemaking more as intuitive. He's less of this kind of like by the books and really like scientific and rule kind of guy. But he does a lot of things. He's definitely more of a artist than he's a scientist. Organic farming, indigenous yeast, low sulfur, gentle whole cluster fermentation, i.e. carbonic maceration. His goal is really just kind of the pure, honest terroir expression. As you can tell, you know, he's only focusing on Fleurie, making wines from all these different ludi, and he's all about expressing those different terroirs and why it makes it different. He's meticulous in the vineyards, and then, you know, very, very gentle in the cellar. You know, kind of all the things that we really like in our winemakers. People who believe that, you know, good wines are made in the vineyards first and foremost, and then try to do as little as possible in the cellar. He's also the one who's actually advocating. I didn't know this until I was doing research for this, but yeah, he's also one of the advocate lobbying for the Premier Cru classification for Fleurie. There's a lot of I've heard this before, but apparently there's a lot of pushback as well from the people in the region, especially probably the ones that who are not going to get the Premier Cru designation if we were to go through. But yeah, there's also a group of people who are pushing for. It's kind of like Burgundy, you know, a Premier Cru designation or classification for Fleurie. Sign, you know, in a way you can tell it's a sign that this guy Gregoire takes his wine quite seriously, or takes his terroir very seriously. His wines are very sought after. Some of them are quite allocated, and they continue to kind of command the attention of critics and different people. And his pricing in this particular vintage, the yield was very low, so maybe that has a lot to do with it, or maybe his popularity of his wines that are growing. But I've tasted his wines through the years, and it's getting better every year. But this particular vintage, 2024, was a stellar, which is interesting because it was a very difficult, challenging year, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the pricing and then the yield was very small, so maybe that pressure played a role here too. But the pricing here really jumped. I consider using his wine last year, and then I use a different producer, but then now I'm kind of beating myself over it. I mean, this year's better. 2024 is much better even better than the one that I tasted last year. So I'm not mad about it, but also the price went up quite significantly. So maybe he will continue, his pricing will continue to go up. So if you see a bottle of Hoppenot on the market, I say yes, because I think his wines are gonna continue to climb up, especially with the amount of recognition that he's getting from wine critics and wine world in general. So what is this wine? This is 100% Gamay from the Ludi of Garants in Fleurie. Very infertile granite soil, quartz running through, vines up to 6 years old, like I mentioned, all farmed organically here. Whole cluster fermentation, so we're talking about carbonic maceration here. So full carbonic for 15 to 20 days in a 60 hectoliter concrete vats. Very traditional, right? A lot of producers prefer, in this region, prefer concrete as their fermenting vessel with the indigenous yeast, and that's exactly what he did here. Daily pump over. So there are two ways kind of extract color, tannin, flavors, all the things out of the skins of the grape. So one would be to punch down. So you can literally punching the cap, all the skins and things that are on top, punching it down into the wine so it gets submerged and it extracts all that phenolics and flavor. But gentler way of doing that is a pump over, which is you actually pump the wine from the bottom of the barrel or the concrete vat, and then you put it over the top. So as the wine touches the caps and flows down, it's extracting more the phenolics and the flavor as well, and then going back into the wine, and then cycle continues. So that's another way of extracting more stuff out of the skins, but it is a much gentler way. And then he prefers to do it that way, especially with the Fleurie, where he's trying to preserve a lot of that kind of delicate aromas, all that elegant flower, pretty stuff that I was talking about. So not only does he do a pump over rather than punch down, but he also keeps the temperature down below 20 degrees after pressing to preserve that kind of freshness, hold on to all that elegant or delicate aromas and fruit. It is aged for 8 months in a mixture of large fougera as well as barrels. About 15% are barrels, but the majority of it is in big fougera to kind of gently integrate it, let the flavors, everything meld, round out the edges and all of that. Minimal sulfites, unfined, unfiltered, all that stuff. Earlier I mentioned the 2024 was a challenging vintage, so this is a very kind of old-fashioned wet vintage. It rained quite a bit. I believe, from what I read, it was actually the wettest year in France in 30 years. Severe mildew, kind of a disease pressure all season, and all of that kind of lowered the yield essentially of this region. The northern Beaujolais, including Fleurie, were relatively they didn't get the worst of the weather. They got really warm and dry August that came through, rescued the ripeness. It got it to where it needed to be. Otherwise, it was going to be a really kind of lean and not very supple and ripe year. It was going to be a very unripe year. but then that warm, dry August kind of helped dry up all that moisture, humidity, as well as help with ripeness of the fruit. And then the reason I mention all this is that I feel like it really helps with understanding why this wine tastes the way it does. I kind of see the influence of that weather in this vintage. But yeah, so it's fresh, it's vibrant, it's fruit forward, but the earlier kind of the cooler weather with the rain really help it retain this natural acidity as well. So yeah, that's kind of what we have here. Let's get to tasting it. Let me pull up the grid, which I did not. There we go. So let's start with the appearance. I'm gonna call this wine clear, but you can tell this is not filter or fine. It's not translucent. It's kind of, little bit of haze, but yeah, for the most intents and purposes, I'm gonna call this clear. Intensity, this is like medium. I won't go anything more than a medium here. Maybe somewhere between pale and medium minus or something like that. Ruby is what I call this. Very hallmark signature kind of a color of you would find about intensity you would find a full carbonic wine, but in a gentle extraction, obviously, right? All right. Any other observation? No bubbles, no sediments, nothing like that. All right, let's get to notes. Let's give it a swirl. Oh fuck! This one smells so good. Like immediately, I get just so much granite, like just crushed granite everywhere on this thing. Yeah. So like really, really good, like Beaujolais. This is what I'm talking about. This granite influence. But anyways, all right. Let's go to the condition. This one is clean. This one is sound. Intensity. I mean, I'm about here. I mean, that's 2 to 3 inches off. So I'm gonna call this a medium plus aromas of, what do we get? And behind all the heavy crushed rocks and granite and minerality, it is like everything that I love about Fleurie. It's like floaty, perfume, kind of ethereal, but yeah, definitely get some beautiful like kind of rose petals. Maybe some violet, but like yeah, mostly like rose petals or like a red kind of a flowery kind of a thing. No green, citrus, stone, tropical, and then the fruit here is this is red. There's no black here. It's just like red fruit, ton of just fresh red fruit, like raspberry, strawberry, red currant, red cherry, cranberry, even like yeah, it's like really bright, poppy, beautiful fruit here. Yeah. Touch of like a Jolly Rancher, like the red color Jolly Rancher that you get, but really just beautiful, lifted, high tone fruit here. No black fruit. Nature of the fruit, really fresh. There's nothing overripe, underripe. To me, this is like peak ripeness. Just when it's like the perfect combination of the sugar and acidity in the fruit. There's nothing jammy, overcooked, baked, or nothing like that. Just beautifully fresh and ripe fruit. I can just honestly just smell this all day. Like it's awesome. There's a delicate kind of like a savory undercurrent here. I get a little bit like a whiff of like a tea. There's something that reminds me a little bit like a tea, like maybe like some sort of like a Earl Grey or like a black tea, Assam tea. There's some sort of tea leaf thing here. So maybe, not a black fruit, but maybe like a touch of that like darkness coming through here. But really, I think what I'm getting here, I think that's getting from just the granite. I mean, just ton of, speaking with that, just ton of that crushed granite, wet stone. Like, I mean, this is Le Grand, it's that pink granite just running through the entire thing. Yeah, like as you smell this, and this is what I mean by like the 2024 kind of a cooler vintage. Like it's fresher, cooler. There's a lot of tension even just on the nose. Like this does not feel like something that's just like ripe and lazy and just like blah. It just seems very like tight. Everything is just like really in its place. Yeah, it's not just like just full of just ripe fruit and that's it. That's like the first thing that dominates. But there's a lot of like, I mean, it's expressive fruit, but fruit quality. That there's a tension around it. There's like it's really tight. Everything is kind of in its place. The fruit is bright and precise. Yeah, it's just, it smells awesome. I just love this wine. All right, no secondary, no tertiary. This is still very fresh, still right, all in the primary. All right, let's get to the palate. This wine is dry. This wine is bone dry. Acidity. There's a good amount of acidity here, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna call this medium plus acid. Yeah, this is like a, again, this is that fresh, vibrant, that kind of like a cooler vintage kind of coming through here. Acid is really, really like the good spine of this wine. That's great. Tannin, not a whole lot of tannin. There's some tannin here, but it's actually a little more than I think. Yeah, I'm gonna call it like a high end of medium minus, lower end of medium. But I like the quality of it, like the nature of the tannin, just like really soft, really silky and small grains. There's nothing rough and chewy. Yeah, I'm gonna call this medium. I'm gonna this one on time. Alcohol, I don't know, right down the middle. 12.5 is about what I would call this. Oh, my mouth is watering so much from all that acid. Do you guys see the alcohol in this thing? I don't see the alcohol. Oh, it does. 12%. So right down the middle. Medium alcohol. Body. Higher end of medium minus, lower end of medium. Somewhere in there. The mousse flavor intensity. I'm gonna go with the same thing as on the nose. I mean, there's, if anything, this one is just really expressive. Nothing shy, but a medium plus. I just poured a new glass, and then I feel that a lot of that kind of dissolved CO2 in here. Get that. Adds another like that crunch factor to this thing. You really lifts it. It's delightful. Where are we? Flavor intensity, we call it medium plus. Yeah, flavor characteristic. So, yeah, I'm confirming everything that I got on the nose. You know, that really kind of rose petal, fresh flower, all of that running through here. No, and then the red fruit. You know, the red currant, cranberry, strawberry. Maybe even like some pomegranate, tart cherry. All that really comes through here. The nature of the fruit is just really fresh, really ripe, just beautifully like peak ripeness. Like the perfect time to eat a fruit, right? Like when it's not just sweet, it has that perfect balance between acid and sweet, sugar. You know, beautiful. But and then all of that is on the backs of this fucking granitic, like just a mineral through. Like there's so much minerality in this wine. It's almost got this kind of flinty, almost smoky kind of a rock dust running through, and then on top of that is all this really pretty, you know, ethereal. I keep going back to that word ethereal, but like really, it sings up here. Like it's a lot of treble notes here, right? Like just singing high. It rings in the high top of your head. very lifted. There's nothing heavy about the sign. Like it's just beautiful, lifted, expressive, vibrant, fresh, alive. I mean, these are all the adjectives that I'll use to describe this wine. No secondary, no tertiary. Yeah, and then finally the finish. Wow. Yeah, so all that fruit and that minerality. I mean, that minerality just lingers and goes on. I'm gonna call that medium plus. So let's bring it all together. Is this wine balanced? Yeah, I think this wine is beautifully balanced, really, really harmonious. Everything is in its place, just perfectly at its right level. Nothing sticking up. Concentration, we called it medium plus on the nose, medium plus on the palate. Complexity, we had quite a bit of things going on here, right? Like we called it the fruit, the red fruit, there's a little bit of like tea element, like the Earl Grey that I mentioned, and then just ton of minerality, like so much minerality in this wine. No secondary, no tertiary, but it's like, you know, all the things in the primary. So I'll call it about like medium on the complexity. And then the length, we definitely call it medium plus. So when you take an average of all of that, balance, medium plus concentration, medium complexity, medium plus length. So I'm gonna call this very good. Level of readiness for drinking, potential for aging. I think this wine is beautiful right now. Like I'll be so happy drinking this anytime right now. Having said that, we call it medium plus on the acid, like medium minus the medium tannin, right? Not super high tannin. So decent amount of backbone, not like crazy about backbone, but just knowing all this, having all this intensity here, a lot of that is gonna change into savory, kind of a non-fruit, non-floral aromas on top of all of that minerality that's going on, which is adding to more complexity as this ages. So I'll say drink this now and drink it through next, I don't know, 5 to 8 years. I don't know, about 5 years sounds about right. So I think, you know, this through 2030, 2031, somewhere around there, I feel like this is really gonna hit the prime. I don't think this is something that's gonna, I'm gonna stick with the 5 to 7, 5 to 8 years. But yeah, I'd say this is an excellent candidate to get a few bottles, drink a few bottles now if you can, you know, control yourself, and then hold on to it, come back to it 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years, and that's kind of how I would drink it. I get like 4 bottles, drink one now, 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years is kind of like how I would do this if I were to get 4 bottles. Of course, if you get more bottles, then you're fine. But yeah, cool. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this because this wine is a treat. I really, really like this wine a lot. All right, let's play everybody's favorite game. If you wanna guess how much this wine is in a retail shop, I recommend you stop the recording now. But otherwise, this a retail shelf would be $53. Yes, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It is this. It's also funny. Those 2 bottles I mentioned earlier, right? This and Morgon. Well, they are 2 of my favorites in this year's box, but they're also 2 of the most expensive ones in the box. So I don't know. Maybe I got a bougie ass fucking palate, but yeah, this is definitely not one of the more expensive ones in the box. And like I mentioned, you know, this was a tough year. On top of that, his wine, he's been getting a lot of attention, so his price has been going up every year. I really wish I had caught his wines, you know, snuck away a few before, but yeah, so $53 is what you get. Again, you know, we're getting to a place where Beaujolais, you know, are getting up to 53. Whether this is worth it for you or not, you decide. But you know, I really do think this is not only my own preference of what I like to drink, but quality-wise, I do think this is one of the better made, really, really top-made wines that I've come across in recent times. So maybe I just need to reset my reference point for Beaujolais. Maybe I just need to stop being shocked that really top end Beaujolais will go beyond $50, which is a crazy fucking thing for me to imagine. Because yeah, I don't know. I'm just a dinosaur. I guess I'm just old and grumpy and wish that things were cheaper, or Beaujolais was cheap. Crude Beaujolais was cheaper. But yeah, $53. Cool. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. Oh, one more thing. For those of you, whether you are coming to Wine Prom or not. So Wine Prom is next weekend, next Saturday. So today is March 20th, right? It's happening 3/28. So on Saturday. So the 3/27, that Friday, was supposed to be our 8th tasting, which is a second live tasting, a Zoom tasting we're supposed to have. But because the day after is Wine Prom, I would like to postpone that Zoom tasting. And I'm sorry, I know I sent the calendar invite out with that day, so if you're planning on joining us on that day, I'm sorry that if that fucks up your schedule. But I really don't want to. There's always something to do the night before Wine Prom, just getting the place set up and everything. So I just hate to kind of rush that process and have Wine Prom affect Beaujolais tasting and vice versa, Beaujolais tasting affect Wine Prom. So I think it's just best if I actually set out a recording and then do the Zoom tasting the next week. So the Zoom tasting will be not next week on the 27th of March, but it will be on the following Friday on the 3rd of April. Okay, so sorry about that again, especially for those of you who are not coming to Wine Prom. Yeah, sorry, I really don't know what else to say. But yeah, I will include this in the email as well. But cool. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any disagreements, let me know about what you think about this wine. Like, am I the only one who likes this wine as much, or like, I don't know. Do you think this one is also very special as well? Because yeah, it really, really kind of caught my attention. So cool. Have a good one, y'all. I'll see you next week. Toodles.